Steiny and Guru here. Stiles in for Steiny. Steiny will be back Thursday. He's already tweeting. He's already getting ready for the return.
I got 2 victory laps to get ready for. One here with Mark Willard.
He left on a victory lap. He's coming back.
I don't want it.
You don't want
I'm
it?
sitting my victory lap out.
Because he's still on the team.
I don't want it.
Dibs.
He's not going to be on the team.
Willard
He's not going to be on the team.
Willard and Dibs are
You've
here.
been saying that for how long?
Dibs is in here, vibing that Eminem, feeling good.
Man, turn up my snare. I'm ready for my victory lap, too, after what I can fix my own camera, Grandy. All you have to do is tell me in my ear. No, I'm not helpless.
Dibs is spicy today.
I'm helpless.
2-6.
Come over here and help me with something.
That.
I had a talk with the boss.
Gosh.
We had a show meeting, but before, can you pop in before the meeting? So I had the meeting before the meeting, which was nice. And we were talking about Stiles and Dibs.
Yeah.
And I had to tell him the story about how you, Stiles, and Grandy, and Lucas, you called me out. And
You're going to tell this story forever.
It's a great story. Because you guys were so lucky. You guys were right to do it because I came in weak for 3.5 shows of just, hey, guys, coming up. And I was weak. And then these guys called me out. And Stiles called my manhood into question.
No, come on.
And
dude,
Grandy,
Alan, I didn't know you were that type, bro.
Dude, I mean, Grandy and Lucas, of course, came in last.
Dibs?
They said that's about enough of this Rajon Rondo crap.
Yeah.
Learn how to score on your own.
Man,
no, that's what it was.
Uncle Drew, put up a damn shot. Don't be afraid to shoot your shot.
Dibs
It's all you got.
Dibs was on with me.
There you go.
It was just like when KD first joined the Warriors. Hey, you shoot. No, you shoot. Dibs was just being a little bit too nice.
Sure.
And we had to say, hey, Dibs, you don't got to be so nice. Let's get it popping.
And so, finally I came out with my Trey Lance is not very good take. And here we are now with Trey Lance.
I'm fighting for my life.
Is he still not at practice, or did he eventually? I thought it might have.
How did you read that?
It might have been a MapQuest issue.
Practice is over, and he did not.
It's
How
over
are you guys
already?
taking that?
Because you know how
I can give you. I've already got the reps. Y'all want the quarterback reps for today?
How many did Trey get?
Yeah, I don't want to hear.
It did not show up.
But I'm
It
trying
might
to
have
figure
been a
out.
VTA issue.
I'm trying to convince Alan he's butthurt and mad. He goes, no,
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Was it a
I'm-
Trey thing or an organization thing?
Organization.
Thank you.
For sure.
They said sit this one out.
Me and Willard lockstep today.
Well, here's the thing. And I've been
Get a
listening.
room.
I've been listening. I brought the man a fan for crying out
Last
loud.
week he brought me in and
I brought you
out.
2 fans.
Willard
One's
came
there
in.
right there, and
Willard
one's me.
quit me.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, here's the thing.
thought that was Tim
I've
Jordan.
been listening to you guys, and Guru, I get it if Trey were what everybody thought he might be. But just being the number 3 overall pick in the draft does not give you the attitudinal leverage to make a play like that. Right? You know what I mean? Like, I get it. If this isn't James Harden for the 18th time.
You haven't done it.
Right. He had, if he went to the Niners and went, I'm sitting out, they'd be like, okay.
You were going to do that anyway, technically.
Okay.
Think about that. Yeah, I did.
What QB3 in the NFL is like, that's it. I've had it. I'm sitting. And the team's like, oh, crap, we got to do something.
Man.
No, it sucks.
Yeah.
They made the wrong pick. And it stinks.
Yeah.
It stinks for the nice kid. It stinks for the organization that they made a mistake. But
Sam Darnold's your number 2.
the bottom line is that now, and I don't want to blame the media or the fans, but this discourse that we've been having is why he's going to be traded. I don't know if he would be traded if it were quiet, but the reason he's going to be traded is because the season's about to start, and you cannot have this.
I asked him, do you think the players are relieved that this is happening?
Of course. It's every question every day.
Wow.
You cannot go beat Pittsburgh by 10, and then on Tuesday, who's your QB2 tomorrow?
So that's why they did what they
they've
did.
had it. You can't
do
this.
But why do you think? Couple questions here. Number one, how do you think it came out? Right? Do you think it was the Niners?
What's the it?
The
news.
The report.
And do you care?
Pelissero and Rap Sheet.
And for those listening,
Because it sounds like Silver was right. Everything you guys were saying, Steiny, the practice goo, they're seeing something. And I fought it off like Captain America with his shield.
Man,
no, you're wrong.
yeah.
They did. This ain't today.
He's been QB2 from the beginning.
When he signed,
They signed him on day one for guaranteed money. A guy who had options around the league.
This is the victory lap,
it's
Alan.
Sam Darnold.
Reset the news, Alan, for those of us who joined us late. You were about to do that.
So
He's a
per
pro.
Ian Rappaport and Tom Pelissero Pelissero, the Niners are exploring their options with Trey Lance. They have named Sam Darnold. It's not going to be hopscotch, hot potato between the two QBs. Sam Darnold is QB2, and they are exploring options with Trey Lance.
And I believe it means Brandon Allen is going to be your QB3.
Oh, there's no doubt.
And I think that's why Brandon Allen was brought in.
Well, and exploring options are either we trade you or we cut you.
I don't think they're going to cut him.
But those are the options they're exploring. I don't think that they're going to opt to make him QB3 after all this.
They could.
Well, if they were, then they would have had him at practice today.
JD felt that way, like that wasn't over. I was shocked.
I think you got to know the financial ramifications of cutting him. It would cost more. What's the terrible phrase that people use when they're about to go through a divorce? It's cheaper to keep her.
Oh, yeah.
It's cheaper to keep him.
Yeah.
It's cheaper to keep him.
Johnny Taylor. Yeah.
So I really don't think he'll get cut. What I think you may end up seeing is they're so motivated to trade him that you're going to see
a 6. What do you get for
You're
him?
going to see a trade that's wild. Like you almost might need, if you want a 5th rounder, you might need to give Trey and a 7th rounder, or like there might need
Zane
to be
Gonzalez. Maybe
there might need to be some action almost
man.
attached to trade, just so that you can make it a trade. Because if you trade, then there is actual within the next 2 calendar years, and even immediately, there's financial savings.
But there is a cap hit if you trade him this year.
There is, but they also would have additional cap space that would immediately get added.
So we had JD on earlier, and he felt differently. He felt that there was still a chance Trey could be QB3, and he felt that you wouldn't see the Niners aren't ready to just give us a 6th. Let's just get him out the building. And ultimately, nobody really knows.
If you're doing it for
the
teammates, you will.
And again, but that would lend itself to Trey not being at practice today. What's up with that? Is something in the works? And it's just, I don't know. There's a lot to break down here ultimately with the Trey thing. What I wanted to go back to was what you said, Willard, about, hey, you can't continue to answer questions about your QB2 situation. Doesn't really matter what Kyle Shanahan said yesterday. I want to go to what you said and how, do you think that is just strictly for this year, or just, I want to include last year, your decision to bring Jimmy back? A lot of people said, hey, it's just good business. Yep. We both felt, and Dibs, you felt that way too, that, hey, something smells here.
Sure.
Bringing back Jimmy G. So is it a collection of that? And just, this has been going on for a long time. We're on, if it was a show, soap opera season 3, or do you think it's just specifically
Luke and Laura?
Do you think it's a collection, or just, hey, this year we just can't do it?
It's a collection, I think.
Yeah. I think that there has not been one moment since he arrived. I guess rookie year, kind of toss it aside because there were injuries. He was needed to come in. He didn't look terrible when he did come in. He won a football game for them. That was good.
He sure filled on a bomb.
But the bar for a QB1 in the NFL is insanely high. And it was not until last year's off season that Trey Lance was QB1. And I think from that moment, that's when they realized this. Whatever word you want to use to describe it, it did not look like they wanted it to look. Mm-hmm. And I felt that from the beginning. And that is why Jimmy got brought back, and that is why the play calls that were made were called. And that is.
See, but now we're being open about this now. Last season, we didn't get to do a show together, but last season it was
right away.
It was, well, it's just good business to bring in Jimmy, and it was a cheap deal.
It was.
And it was also, well, the play calling, well, I mean, Kyle, I'm trusting Kyle. And now, because they didn't trust Trey to throw, but nobody wanted to say that last season.
It was a hedge. It was
exactly.
It was clearly a hedge.
They brought in Jimmy, and that
a lot of us said that last season.
I said it, absolutely. And you saw the play calling when he got Trey hurt in
Earl Campbell.
Exactly, when he's just running him the ball. He didn't trust him to throw the ball. And I think now this decision or whatever, this news comes out today because Kyle Shanahan is so exhausted with answering that question, because now the question going forward, whenever Trey gets traded or cut or whatever happens, there are no more questions about, hey, how's the battle with Sam and Trey going? And I think that Kyle Shanahan is done with that, and I don't blame him. It's been, what, Mark, 3 or 4 years of him answering questions about quarterbacks and the backup quarterback and all the rest of it.
Dibs, I know they're not politicians, but I got to get to what we spent 30 minutes on. But what about him just yesterday telling the masses, the fans, I'm not going to make an announcement until the week of Pittsburgh, and we might use – it might be rotating like Willard. I know that's politics.
It's not
total
but you
politics.
just said that yesterday, and then bam, breaking news.
That's not really the right word for it. We hold these people to their press conferences in ways that I believe are unfair because you've got it. Okay, what would you like him to say? You wanted total honesty. You want him to come to a microphone.
Do you believe he knew yesterday what he knows now?
Of course.
I believe before Sam signed the contract, they knew who their
Can you
number.
imagine what we would all say about Kyle Shanahan if he just said that stuff about Trey Lance for public consumption, plus it lowers his trade value? Why would, they've got to be able to be allowed to protect certain things. Some of it's just to be right to the people who are in their room with them. They don't dislike Trey Lance. Why would they do something or say something that would be negative for his career? They've got to be able to protect what they need to protect.
I'm not mad at that, but what do you
like Mike Dunleavy Jr.? We love Jordan Poole. He's going to be here for the next 4 years. There's a contract there. Next day.
But what do you call
next day, Chris Paul.
Yeah, because I want to ask him a question.
Yeah.
You're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco. Always live on the free Odyssey app. Twitch and YouTube powered by First NorCal Credit Union.
My man. So with all three of you, is today a good day for Trey?
Today's a great day for Trey.
Hashtag free Trey.
Hashtag free Trey.
Hashtag free Trey. Me and Willard are going different directions here.
I would say no. I say no because
he doesn't have a new team yet, and he ain't in practice.
But he's got clarity, and now
and the showcase on Friday.
He's got a chance to go out there and
showcase on Friday.
Exactly. Well, if he gets to play,
he probably
and I don't think that he will get to play. So now at least he's got clarity. Either you get to be elsewhere via a trade, or you get cut and you get to go elsewhere. No matter what, now you know. Now you know where you stand.
Yeah,
I think he's been knowing. I think he's been knowing just fine.
But now you've got that freedom.
Well, but you don't because you don't have an avenue. The point that I hear a lot of people saying, would Trey demand a trade? Or you got to get Trey out of here
what he's doing
so
now?
He can be developed somewhere. If somebody's not even willing to give you a fifth rounder, do you think this other team's going to bring him in to develop him, to put all kinds of resources into him? Everybody's got a starting quarterback already. Everybody's already got a QB2. Someone's going to take a flyer, but I think if you guys are all under the impression that he's going to get dealt tomorrow to a team that's going to be like, okay, we got our guy. No, it's gonna be a trade and stash.
But wherever he goes, he has a better chance than what he has here.
Yeah, it's over here.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. Right, but it's not going to be some quick. Like Trey Lance is not playing in 2 weeks for somebody else.
And think about James Wiseman. He got an opportunity to go to an absolutely terrible team and play basketball. Yeah. And it's not something that he got here. He was not allowed to play basketball here.
Well,
because Steve Kerr hates young people.
Yeah, I said this yesterday.
Steve.
If I were Tampa, I would make this deal.
All right.
I would make this deal if I were Tampa.
I like Denver. You had that earlier.
Denver's not bad.
YouTube.
And Allen yesterday had, 4 teams that were in the stands Saturday night.
Yeah.
Scouting maybe Trey Lance. And he was like, how many? Well,
maybe. I mean, Tampa makes sense. It's a team like that A, is not in love with their current quarterback.
Oh, man, how can you?
And B, they know they don't have their future quarterback.
And what do you got to lose?
I mean, if Kyle Trask can't beat out Baker, that means Kyle's not the guy. Yeah. And Baker is kind of a stopgap on his third spot. Yeah. So would you bring in someone, because I expect Tampa to be in the quarterback derby in the draft next year, why not bring in Trey and let's check it out for a year and work with him in practice and see if that might be an option for you in future years. I think it's going to end up looking something like that.
Yeah, and when and how many times, and I'm rooting for Trey, but how many times does the bottom fall out like it did here for whatever reason, and then you go bubble somewhere else?
It's pretty rare. I mean, to go and bubble somewhere else, it happens.
Be
maybe
the guy that the Niners wanted you to be.
At this position,
it's very rare.
I don't know if I can think of
I'm
it.
just that.
Can you think of one?
We said Geno Smith.
I said it was 100 years later.
Well,
Geno counts.
Geno counts.
Scoreboard. He counts.
Because I heard you two yesterday go back and forth on the bus. Where does Sam rank on the bus list if this is his third team, but because it's a limousine of the third team, he's he can use that number 2 pencil and erase the bust label there.
No, he's a bust until he actually does something that matters.
Which he could do.
And you can't, like Mitch Trubisky, I think is a great example because, well, he's still in the league. So until Mitch Trubisky goes out there and either if he doesn't get another chance anywhere else, then yes, he's a bust because even if he bounces around 5 times as a backup, he's a bust. He never did what he was supposed to do. Jameis Winston, I will push back on that. He's a starter in this league. And, Jameis was a starter.
He was.
Yeah. Now.
Number 1 pick.
Carr is
number
a
1
starter.
overall pick. He was a starter.
Okay, we'll see.
Not a starter anymore.
We'll see what happens with Derek Carr in New Orleans.
Look at Goose.
He got demoted again.
Derek, you tell me you can't beat out Derek Carr, or Derek Carr's going to stay healthy?
Well, if someone gets hurt, someone gets hurt. That does not make someone a starter.
Yeah.
Derek Carr is being paid $40 million a year to go be the same starter. Jameis is a backup.
Yeah,
he's a backup.
But look at Goo. Goo had FOMO yesterday because he didn't get to have the bus conversation. So Goo's trying to bring it back to what we talked about yesterday.
I brought it up.
Put me on the spot.
I got a couple more minutes with you.
What I said yesterday, and I'll forever do this. To me, bust is 2 different things that you have to assess. There's the player, and I will not say that about Trey Lance in year 3 and 4 starts. I would never call him that.
But the Niners.
But the pick from the Niners' perspective is obviously a bust. And that's where I even could meet you halfway on Jameis. Jameis is not a terrible player, but the Bucs did not get what you are hoping to get out of the number 1 overall pick in the draft. So for the Bucs, that's a bust of a pick.
And the Saints were begging Jameis, here, show us you figured it out. We won't go get Derek Carr.
Right.
And he failed, and now here comes Carr with the 40 M's.
Some cool workout videos, though. This is where I want to go with this. How is this viewed, right, if the Niners don't win the whole thing? We were talking about, the Lysol, right? Get the stench out of the room. The cologne of the bad pick.
Drakkar Noir.
Yeah, you like Drakkar Noir. I like.
It's just
Google like Gucci. Google like Gucci. I like Burberry.
I got 50
Drakkar Noir.
Shout out the 90s, dude.
That was for those special nights.
I had that too.
For those special nights.
I had that too.
When I went to the Palladium back in 89, 90, back when you were just a gleam in Mama Styles' eyes, your boy was...
I had black bottle, baby.
Dude, your boy would strike out, but smelling good.
I had some too. But the question is, the question is, do the Niners have to win with Brock Purdy the Super Bowl for us to fully give them a pass on Trey Lance?
I think so.
Here's the thing. Let's say they have the same. Let's say Brock Purdy has the same Niners career as Jimmy Garoppolo, but they don't win the big one.
Right.
Do you give the Niners a pass on Trey Lance or not?
Yes, of course. Do you know how many quarterbacks have ever won a Super Bowl? Do you guys know that? Do you know how rare it is?
But what would the pass be? Why would you give them a pass?
Is the correct answer. Because only 1 quarterback a year wins a Super Bowl, and usually it's Tom Brady.
But what about the penalty of you missing the pick and what you use to bring in the pick?
And the roster you have.
If he has a Jimmy G career and he goes to, 3 NFC Championship games and 1 Super Bowl, and he underthrows Emmanuel Sanders Jr., whoever.
That's not why they lost that game.
But whatever, they lost that game. There were 6 plays that needed to be made, and they didn't make any of the 6. Bosa got held, and 3rd and 14 or whatever. Tyreek, it's good. Got free, but whatever. They lost that game a number of different ways. But if they go to the Super Bowl and they don't win it, of course he gets a pass. Shanahan's been unbelievably successful.
Hold on,
I don't know.
I agree, but secondly, I want to push back on the premise. Do you quote give them a pass? Mm-hmm. They don't get a pass, period. They totally messed the pick and trade up.
If you get to the promised land,
well, but it did. I don't.
Mystery relevant.
I'm sort of
only
detaching.
A hater would ask about that.
But I'm detaching the 2 things. If Brock Purdy wasn't any good, these guys would have probably been fired by now.
That I believe.
This is the kind of move that gets you fired. They're not fired because they've already produced someone who is one of the 5 favorites to win the Super Bowl this year. So I don't think an organization looks at that and says, only if you win your last game
but
is it
Purdy
okay.
ended up turning into Jameis?
No, he needs to be good.
No.
He needs to be good. So I'm not putting it on that one game, right? He's in theory, Brock Purdy could be the quarterback for the Niners for the next 10 years. He needs to be good. He needs to be a viable player. They need to be able to compete for a title every year. Whether they win that last game this year, next year, whatever, nobody makes decisions on coaches, usually at least based on that. You don't pin it down to one Sunday in the wintertime.
To me, the bigger judgment comes if Trey Lance goes on and plays great. If Trey Lance goes on to play great, that's where you get judged more harshly.
Would you use that on the Warriors then?
That's a good point.
Absolutely. If Wiseman becomes 22-12, and if Jordan Poole goes for 34 a night and leads the league, and the Warriors this year do nothing, and Jordan Poole leads the Wizards to a 9 seed, and he leads the league in scoring,
Westbrook and Oklahoma.
well, that's on you, Golden State. And if Trey Lance goes out and becomes a real one, and you chose Darnold over Lance, that to me hurts more than them.
I
agree with it from the Lance standpoint more than the Warrior one, but there is a thread through all three. Even if all three or any of the three end up really succeeding at their next
perennial
spot,
all-star,
you still can go back to the point of, but in the moment, they didn't make sense for those teams.
Yeah, I guess it's
Trey Lance does not make sense for this team right now. James Wiseman did not make sense for that team right now. And Jordan Poole, for different reasons, no longer made sense for this team right now. So even if yes, you're right, it will not look good and it will not go well if those guys turn out to be great in their next stops. But it's still, even if that's the case, that doesn't make it right to put a bunch of resources into those guys right now.
You got to let me do this because these dudes
Take
love
your time.
ball.
We're here till 6 o'clock.
I was a one. I had an arm, so I pitched. But I got to say this. Willard, you were gone last week. You don't remember the mayonnaise and mustard you put on the Harrison. He's different. And I remember Fernando Valenzuela. I'm aging myself. Jose De Leon.
Sure.
And there's one more. Strasburg struck out 100 Pirates. But
you're going Joaquin Andahar for those of us who partake.
That arm is electric, man.
Yeah.
If you know ball, you know ball. Mm-hmm. That was incredible. I was like, okay, let's see what he has. And
we had his dad on yesterday. Shout out
that
De
was
La.
great.
I'm a little disappointed you took the De La hat off.
Yeah.
Well,
you had to have
with
it
the
on.
Zoom, it was covering the eyes, so I had to get it out here. But
image first.
They recruited Willard.
I hear you. No, but taking it back to what you were saying about whether or Dibs, about what you were saying, whether it would be a pass or not. I guess it's a bigger question, and I guess it's a bigger question as it pertains to the Kyle Shanahan era. Because do we think Kyle Shanahan lasts after Brock Purdy? That's the question now. So I'm just saying throughout this whole thing, to have the roster that you created, and never win the big one, you're in Andy Reid territory with the Eagles.
Sure, Marv,
and that timing would match
Levy,
up.
You can go to Bud Grant. You can go to all the great coaches who have been there for 10-plus years and not won the big one. And Kyle Shanahan's in a spot where you look at the roster that he took over versus what this team has become. Mm-hmm. And I've been saying this to Mark for a couple of years now, ever since we started. I think the quarterback is less important on this team than almost any other team because of what they've created. So if Purdy goes 9-8 and he's not the dude, and then Darnold leaves in free agency, and Purdy next year goes 6-11, and Trey Lance balls out somewhere else, we've got ourselves a problem. As Guru would say, NASA, we've got a problem.
And that scenario that you just painted, I find to be one of the most unlikely scenarios I could ever imagine right
happens.
now. Of course it does.
You know,
of course
and if it was going to happen, out of the other, have we ever seen a situation where the player, the quarterback, was still developing, right? Or had as little opportunity based on whatever, I'm not getting into that, as Trey Lance. That's why I would say you never know, only because Trey is still growing, right? By the time it was time for whoever's second spot, you felt like you knew what they were. That's the only thing I would say.
Especially with the age in which we live, there's no way for the 49ers to escape criticism here. Mm-hmm. You can pick what you want to criticize. For me, that was a terrible pick. It was a terrible trade. And so that can be criticized. Yeah. Other people will say you never gave him a chance. And then there's that group that's going to criticize no matter what in God's name happens every year, no matter how many NFC title games they go to. But there's no way to escape it overall. There's also no way to escape that the 49ers year in and year out right now are really good.
Yeah.
And I don't really see too many scenarios, knock on wood, where they come out and only win 5 or 6 games this year. We'll see the journey unfold, and hopefully there's health. But, I don't really see that scenario. And so outside of that, everything else fizzles. The 49ers just have to be good.
Yeah.
And what's going on 7 years from now?
I hear
you know,
we don't know where we're going to be. That's what it is. Well, Goo,
good job, Alan.
It's been nice rocking with you. It's been nice rocking with you. Got Willard and Dibs 2 to 6 coming right up. Steiny will be back tomorrow. Here we go.